and good morning. My name is Halen Chalk. I am the Outreach Specialist for Kauaʻi Invasive Species Committee. And mahalo for joining us for another year of virtual huaka'i from Mauka to Makai. This year we are going to be closing out our series here at Anini Beach on the north shore of Kauaʻi. And we're going to be meeting up with Aaron Swink from Division of Aquatic Resources, where he will be sharing with us how DAR, in partnership with our local community, can better protect and take care of our Kahakai resources as well as our Kāhili resources. So let's head down the beach and go find Aaron.
Morning, my name is Aaron Swink. I'm the education specialist for the Division of Aquatic Resources here on Kauaʻi. I'm originally from Texas, but I've lived here on Kauaʻi in Kapa'a for a good long time. And like I said, I work for the Division of Aquatic Resources, which is the branch of the state government within DLNR that manages our aquatic resources. So, our aquatic resources are essentially anything that's alive in the water. And so that's fish, our marine mammals, and our habitat itself, so like the coral reefs. All of those things we are tasked with monitoring and studying, assessing like the health of those different populations and stocks, and either from an ecosystem perspective or from a fisheries perspective, and then coming up with strategies to manage and protect those resources. Our mission is to work with the people of Hawaii to manage, protect, and conserve our aquatic resources for this generation and future. So, and that's really, really important, that first part of working with the people of Hawaii, because we're a fairly small division and it's a big ocean. So a lot of what we do is in partnership with other agencies, with universities and academics, with nonprofits, but most importantly with the community, especially the fishing community. And those partnerships are really key to fulfilling that mission of making sure that what we have today is what we have in the future, and even better, right? Kind of regaining some of what we've lost even. Yeah, so the focus of my position with DAR is it's several different things. We're kind of a small division here, especially on Kauaʻi. So I wear a lot of hats. I'm a biologist, so I help out the biology team with coral reef monitoring. Like for example, here at Anini, we go out, we do fish and habitat surveys. So we're looking at coral bleaching, coral disease, coral health, coral cover, right? Basically assessing the reef and the health of the habitat. And then also the fish, that are associated with those habitats. And here at Anini, we've had issues with black band disease and some coral bleaching and things like that. So really being able to, see those trends over time and understand what's going on is really, really important. And then we work with, different nonprofits here, even at Anini, to help understand what's going on with water quality and things like that, what might be influencing, some of the health. So that's from a biology perspective, just one example. My primary role is as education and outreach specialist. So, I work with school groups, doing field trips, doing in school, in class, presentations and projects, teacher development. I work a lot with nonprofits and community organizations. Again, kind of going back to our mission, helping the community understand more what's going on as far as what the state can do and cannot do, and helping kind of bridge the gap. And we're whether that's we want to restore limu, at this place. Okay, well then this is what you'll need to do to be able to do that from a permitting perspective, and helping connect people to the right people in order to do that important conservation work. And then providing technical guidance and expertise as well. So people have an idea, but they maybe don't know what the best way is to go forward. Well, I can help bring the right people together, or help give them bring technical guidance. And then working with the fishing community. So essentially going out, talking story with fishers, going to the fishing shops, hosting for fisher forums and fisher talk story sessions, just to both get information out to them, which is important, for their livelihood, and so they are aware of what's going on and what's coming down the pipe, from a government perspective. But really, what I want to be is an advocate for the fishing community within DAR. So, I try to relay the concerns that I'm hearing, the comments I'm hearing, the general things that we're hearing, and just send those up and make sure that the people who are going to be affected by state rules or different legislation are aware of what's going on and have the tools and the resources to make their voice heard. And so it's an awesome job. I love my job. I get paid to go fishing. I get paid to go diving. I drive the boat for the monitoring team. So I basically have the world's best job. What are our goals and projects for 2022? So one of our main goals is to expand our monitoring of the coral reef environment to really extend to areas that we haven't really looked at so far. Most of our monitoring efforts have been focused on the North Shore and the South Shore, but there's a lot. It's a big island and with a lot of different places, so we're hoping to get out to some more of those places to start expanding our monitoring efforts. We're also hoping to grow our team, so that's something that we're fingers crossed we'll be able to get some more technicians on board, and that'll really help with that other mission. We're hoping to have more community involvement in, there's a lot of things changing, right? Whether that's new laws being passed or new management plans, and it's really important that the community is involved with that. So building off some of those, things that we've started last year, meetings, just kind of keeping those going. We're wrapping up our the 5-year review for the Ha'ena community-based subsistence fishing area, which was the first of its kind, where the community is actually involved in the rulemaking process. And the goal of that, the purpose of that, is to protect and preserve traditional Hawaiian subsistence fishing practices. So it's really exciting to see Ha'ena leading the way with that, and then now there's communities all over the state that are looking at the same process and going through the same process, and they're going to be looking to us and the Ha'ena Hui for experience and kind of some guidance on how to do that. So it's that's something that we're looking forward to, is kind of being a resource for some of these other communities and other DAR offices on the other islands. Yeah, so some examples of aquatic invasives impacting native species. I'll break it down a couple different. So freshwater, right? In the last year, we've had several major issues with invasive species in freshwater. We could think about invasive species. We have the old guard, right? Which is tilapia, smallmouth bass. Those are ones that do cause problems, right? They prey on native wildlife, native fishes, cause problems. Tilapia cause erosion. Unfortunately, they're so well established that eradicating them, at least island, maybe you could get them out of a certain place, but they're not really going to be eradicated. So what we're focusing now is trying to stop new stuff, right? Emerging native invasive species from getting a foothold. So that's where our action is primarily focused. So couple different areas. One is Salvinia, which is in the Kilauea River and a few other places. We're more at this point, we're monitoring it because control of that, effective control, would mostly require a herbicide use, which we're that's a last resort, right, to use herbicides in waterways. So we're monitoring it. We're hopefully just with some occasional community work and involvement, that can be just kept in check and not spread. But another something that we were alerted to by the community earlier this year was presence of water hyacinth, which is an invasive plant. It's a floating beautiful plant with lovely purple flower that people have in their garden ponds, and it's fairly well established in some of the ditches down near the coast and stuff, and but it actually took hold in one of our Malka reservoirs, which was kind of, we were surprised and concerned about. It was brought to our attention by a member of the community who lives up there, and we were really thankful because we were able to get in there and remove it before it took hold. But in 2 days we removed it was close to 10,000 pounds of plants out of there. So it was an incredible amount of work. And so we're hoping to be able to monitor that. Hopefully, we really tried to go over it with a fine-tooth comb, but I'm sure we missed some stuff. So we're gonna have to, over the next year, make sure that that's not growing back, and that it hasn't spread to some of the downstream areas. And that one, how it impacts native ecosystems is by covering the whole surface of, a body of water. So it will literally create a solid carpet which blocks all light. And really affects like the oxygen levels. It can cause, fish die-offs and things like that because there's nothing really to keep it in check, because outside of its native range, the diseases and parasites and, herbivores that prey on it just aren't here. And it can spread into waterways, and our main concern was that we wanted to keep it out of the Kāpaʻa estuary. Kāpaʻa stream estuary, which is a major, it's got it's basically prime habitat because it's big, it's slow moving water, and it's got a lot of sunlight, which is what that plant loves. It's not shaded. So trying to keep that out of that estuary is our main goal. We're also, we've had issues with non-native species popping up other places, actually in the ocean, and we're not really sure always where they exactly came from. The primary vectors where things get released are ballast water. So when big ships come in to the harbors, they exchange their ballast water, and it's supposed to be, they're not supposed to be releasing just untreated ballast water into the environment, but that does happen. And also you can have non-native, like for example, mussels or barnacles that can be, or biofilm that's attached to the hull of the ship itself that can then be transported. So harbors can be like a hot spot for these new things pop up. And indeed, we did have a non-native new algae that we had never really seen before show up at Kalapaki. We're monitoring that to see if it's taking hold, or sometimes something will get introduced to the environment and then it kind of just can't really find a foothold. It's not really its right spot. We're hoping that that's going to be the case there, but we're monitoring that situation. We've had issues other places on the island where things possibly from an aquarium, we're not really sure, have gotten out to the environment. And so, anytime that something gets out that's not native, gets out into the environment, it requires a lot of work to both, cut that before it takes over, to nip it in the bud. And then it's a lot of work to then monitor and make sure that the work you did actually means something, because if you just, you can't just do it once. You have to go back and back and back. So, it's going to be a lot of follow-up, and, who knows what 2022 will bring. It's always a surprise.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Let's see, next one. I don't know about that one. I think you pretty much answered that question. It was, how does your work positively impact the environment? And I think you covered that very well already. So the next question would be, how can your community get involved or get in contact with DAR?
Yeah. So how can the community get involved? So I think the most effective thing is to really be aware of what is going on in terms of, sometimes here on Kauaʻi, we're kind of a world away from Honolulu and what's going on with the legislature and with rulemaking and all this kind of stuff. But the community, what we're seeing now is the community really getting much more involved in that process, and it's a positive impact. So we're seeing things that are coming into fruition that were led by the community. So for example, the Ha'ena community subsistence fishing area, that was 20 years of perseverance, right? And multiple administrations and all this, multiple administrators and government officials and everything. 20 years, and so yeah, so some invasive species, they directly compete with natives, or they prey on native. Like for example, the smallmouth bass. They prey on oopu. But other times they're ecosystem modifiers, or ecosystem engineers. So they're actually like modifying the whole environment. So taking it from a sunny, like getting a lot of light, going to be dominated by photosynthetic plankton and things, to one that's completely in the dark, right? Totally different ecosystem. So that's one way how they affect our native wildlife. In the ocean, we've had instances where these even non-native corals have been released. Like there was some that was removed on Oahu last year, and those can compete with native corals for space. A lot of times they're much more aggressive and fast growing. One of the most important things, though, the main ways that invasive species, it's actually the stuff that we don't see a lot of times, is diseases, it's parasites. So that's where even releasing aquarium water into the ecosystem is bad, right? Like, we don't want to get the water, the live rock, or draining garden ponds. That's probably how the hyacinth got into that Kāhili reservoir, was someone either draining their koi pond, or it flooded and flushed the plants out into the ditches and the drainages. So keeping the organisms from your aquariums and koi ponds and stuff contained in that, and then making sure that not even the water gets introduced, because that's a lot of times some of the worst things. Like we're seeing this rapid ohia death, we don't even know where it came from, and look what it's doing to our forest. So there are coral diseases and things that we don't fully understand, like where they came from, and keeping those environmental, those non-native vectors out of our waters is really important. What is the most rewarding part of my job? Man, that's almost tough to nail down, because I think for me, it's helping people to connect with the place that they live and we all rely on. So whether that's, I get a lot of there's a lot of just like satisfaction in that. So whether that is working with kids. I love, here at Anini, I help out with like some different, reef education programs that are really awesome, and we'll be out there snorkeling and just seeing like the excitement on their faces. And sometimes, you'll have a mix of kids that are born and raised here, generations, and then you have kids that literally, they got here this summer and they just moved here and they don't know anything about Hawaii or anything. And seeing, being able to like see those kids come together to learn about the ocean, to connect with the place, to grow in their like respect and care, for the resource, for the environment, is really, really cool. I love to work with the fishing community, that is such a vital part of our community here on Kauai, and to see, just to like really help them like connect with the right people and make sure that their voice is heard. I get a lot of satisfaction from that, and then just knowing that like, just spending time. I get to spend a lot of time outside in nature. It's amazing. I get to go diving and see whales, and it's incredible. Well, I think one of the most important things to get involved with right now is just to awareness of what's going on at our within the government, and getting involved in those discussions, the legislative process, the rulemaking process. There's a lot of things that have been led by the community that are coming into fruition now, that are forces for positive good. The Ha'ena community-based subsistence fishing area, that's the result of 20 years of work, of perseverance, through multiple administrators, multiple governors, you know, and administrations to see that actually come through now, and to actually for us to be able to say, okay, it's been, you know, it's actually been 6 years now, but what are the, has it been effective? And to see the answer to be yes, like largely, like, you know, the goals of that management area are playing out in really positive ways. And so that's so important to see. You know, even from so just the community getting involved, being aware of what's going on. A way how you can get involved is if you go to the DAR website, which is dlnr.hawaii.gov/DAR. You can see that there are several different ways to join in conversations. So we have island-wide and statewide what are called our Holo Holo Fisher Talk Story sessions. And they're a chance for the fishing community to get together with the people who are the biologists who are out there studying, you know, the reefs and fish stocks, and then for the administrators who are like making rules and leading, you know, our agency to get together, right? And for that exchange of information and, you know, mana'o to like take place, because it's so important for our mission, which is working with the people to preserve, you know, these resources. So I think just getting involved in letting your voice be heard is probably the number one way. There's plenty of other things that, you know, we can do as individuals to, like, you know, beach cleanup and be pono, you know, being pono in your fishing and in your, you know, recreation in the ocean and all of those things. And I think people that are watching this video are probably, you know, already really, you know, practicing those things. So I think, you know, just taking it to the next level is getting involved at that, you know, that higher level.
Aloha, my name is Makana Reilly and I'm with Hawaii Land Trust here at Kāhili Beach Preserve on the island of Kauaʻi. The mission of Hawaii Land Trust is to protect and steward the lands that sustain Hawaii and to perpetuate Hawaiian values by connecting people with Aina. I am the Director of Aina Connection with Hawaii Land Trust, and I support the land stewards that we have across Hawaii, and I support the community connection that we have at our preserves, and I am also the storyteller of the organization. So Hawaii Land Trust works to protect Aina in two different ways. Sometimes we own land, in which case we also steward it, like here at Kāhili Beach Preserve. And sometimes we put a conservation easement over land, and the landowner maintains ownership of the land, in which case we would not do the stewardship on site. So here at Kāhili Beach Preserve, this space has been protected and owned by HILT for over a decade now. We have a small team of steward educators who work with the community to manage the invasive plant species on site and work really hard to plant native plant species here at Kāhili. We also have teams of stewards on other islands at our other preserves, like on Oahu at Maunawila Heiau Complex and on Maui at Waihe'e Coastal Dunes and Wetlands Refuge. So here at Kāhili Beach Preserve, this is a coastal dunes preserve. Here, this is the muliwai here, and then right on that side is the ocean and the shore break, you might be able to hear. And here on site, we have community work days every first Sunday of the month. And you can check out on our website at HILT.org the different opportunities that we have for volunteering. Here at Hawaii Land Trust, it's critical to us as an organization to protect spaces where endangered birds can thrive, which is a lot of our coastal areas. spaces where we have cultural sites that need to be protected forever, and then areas where, you know, our native plant and animal species can thrive, and of course spaces where we can grow food for Hawaii. And so, you know, in all of those spaces and those ways, we work to protect the Aina, but it's really in order for the community of people, but the community of plants and animals to thrive as well. Here at Kahili Beach Preserve, we have monthly community work days on the first Sunday of every month, and we welcome the community to come and participate in our on-site restoration and stewardship activities. And more information can be found on our website at hilt.org. The most rewarding part of my job is being able to be in spaces like this, like Kahili Beach Preserve, here in the morning where the muliwai is, you know, quiet and calm, and we have Eva coming to drink the fresh water. That's the kind of stuff that you don't even like sign up for, but that's what's happening. You know, that's the reality of conservation work, is that you get to experience these special places, and the place rewards you with these types of gems like the Eva.